mandatory minicamp, and Robert Saleh called it an unexcused absence when he went to the podium. And I asked Albert Breer earlier today if using that phrasing by Robert Saleh, the young coach for the Jets on the hot seat, was that a mistake?
No, because I think that they felt like internally it would be opening Pandora's box if they did excuse it. They could have 20 guys next year coming to them and asking for mandatory minicamp or something else mandatory off if they allowed this. And I think the important thing is the way it was handled internally. They went to Aaron and sat down and talked to him about this and talked through the whole thing. And I'm not saying Aaron loves the idea of being fined, but he did understand why it was an unexcused absence, with the line there being one team, one set of rules. And here's the other part of it, Colin. Like I think the spring is more for guys who are in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and they really felt through the 10 OTA practices, they were able to get enough out of it where they could make the mini camp something that could be a little bit more geared towards some of those younger guys. Aaron got the work that he needed to get in. We could argue about the handling of it, of course. Like I personally would have loved to have seen Aaron Rodgers come out and explain it himself, so his coaches or his teammates wouldn't have to. But I don't think this is going to be a big deal when the Jets report in the summer. I think it's a big deal because nothing's happening in the NFL right now in the middle of June.
So Trevor Lawrence signed an extension. I do wonder, because that city, it feels like Ken Griffey with the Mariners. Like he was basically going to get Safeco built. He saved the team from leaving again. And I feel like Trevor Lawrence, in this franchise, if they were in London in 4 years, I wouldn't be shocked. I kind of feel his circumstances are different than Tua and Dak. They just are. He was a number 1 pick. He's been viewed as sort of generational, maybe disappointing. But do you think the Trevor Lawrence contract changes the market?
No, because I think all these guys were going to get paid in this range, like over 50, not too much over 50. I mean, I'd ask you, Colin, would you rather have Trevor or Tua? Would you rather have Trevor or Dak? Would you rather have Trevor or Jordan Love? And I think for most NFL teams, at least, the answer would be they'd rather have Trevor than those 3 guys. So paying him before those 3 guys got paid makes perfect sense, because if any of those guys got to a certain point, you're going to have to leapfrog them. And ultimately, I think this is about paying him for where you think he's going to be, not where he is right now. Is he the type of generational guy that we all thought he might be, back in 2019 and 2020? Maybe not, because, I think he was seen, in NFL circles as being on that Luck, Elway, Manning type of tier as a prospect. But he's been a really good player, and his circumstances have been really crappy.
Yeah.
Came into the league, the Urban Meyer year was what it was, a complete disaster. Comes back in year 2, had a great second year in the league, right? And leads one of the greatest playoff comebacks in NFL history, and then had a little bit of a bumpy third year. And so I think if you look at a kid who's sort of ridden all of that out, there are a lot of guys who I think would be in a worse spot than he's in. And I think they believe that if they can stabilize things around him, they're going to get a much better player in year 5, year 6, year 7. Here's the other thing. If Doug Peterson doesn't wind up being the guy in Jacksonville, the next guy's not going to throw Trevor Lawrence out. The next guy is going to be telling ownership, I can make it work. I can enhance Trevor Lawrence, which is another reason to take care of him now.
I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going to be a Niner at the trade deadline. I think this offense runs through Shanahan's brain and Christian McCaffrey's legs. I think Ayuk is replaceable. They drafted 2 receivers. They re-signed Jennings. And I think he's a really good player that a team like New England could use. Or maybe a Carolina. What is your take on the stories today that it's they're not close, the Niners and Ayuk, who's really a remarkable player?
I think there are 2 things that I would say to give you some optimism that he could still be there. Number 1 is that they did get Christian McCaffrey done aggressively. And I think they had to do McCaffrey before they did Ayuk, because if you pay Ayuk $29, $30, $31 million a year, now the price of McCaffrey might go up. So you had to take care of McCaffrey first. The second thing is, our mutual friend, Mike Silver, reported that they were at $26 million. That's not that far off. And a lot of times these things get ugliest towards the end. And the Debo thing was not clean until it was at the very end. And I would tell you this, and I do feel strongly about this part of it. I think if you fed John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan truth serum and asked them, who would you rather have on the roster, Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk going forward? I think they would answer Ayuk. They love Debo. Debo can do a lot of different things for them, but Debo is like a supercharged gadget player. Ayuk is more of a typical number one receiver who can beat man coverage and who can build an offense around. And so, do I think they're going to go to Justin Jefferson numbers to get Ayuk signed? No. And if Ayuk draws a line in the sand there and says I'm not going to take less than that, then maybe he is traded. But if there is some level of compromise, I still think the Niners would like to get something done with Ayuk, and I don't think the door is closed on that.
So now you have what is called sort of the it's the time off between the official opening of camps, which you get into the Hall of Fame game. So it's a lot of time for, you cross your fingers if you're a fan for your players to stay out of trouble. As J-Mac mentioned earlier, Kansas City Chiefs have had a noisy offseason with young players, getting in trouble. But I'll say this again about the New York Jets. If I was Aaron Rodgers, I would sort of view it. I said this at the very, very top of this hour. I'm in a division with Tua, a brilliant offensive coach, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's back, C.J. Stroud is hit. I just see all these offensive coaches and offensive special players and star quarterbacks. I'd probably go to minicamp. It's not the end of the world. I've been told Aaron Rodgers was on the other, beyond Europe, on the other side of the world, an event that nobody will clarify what it is. Organizations and corporations don't like precedents. And so if Aaron used because they don't want this to be a precedent where a veteran player can say, I don't want to show up. But if I had new offensive linemen, I only played 4 snaps. My offensive coordinator is suboptimal. My head coach is on the hot seat. My GM's on the hot seat. I'd have shown up just to support my guys. But I tend to think Aaron sort of is, as the Green Bay Packers discovered at the end of his career, he's going to do what he wants to do. And so you cross your fingers. You don't think it matters. But the good news for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, the early schedule really plays into some odd starting times, short weeks, night games. But the Jets will be favored in almost all their early games except going on the road in the opener against San Francisco. And they've had a noisy offseason because of Brandon Ayuk. So J-Mac, for our audience that doesn't know, and it's very few people that don't know this, he is a big Jets fan. As America's honesty broker, I play no favorites, but you're a Jets fan, but even you were bothered a little by the Aaron shenanigans.
It's annoying. It's just another brush fire that this franchise does not need. Can we go through a month or two without noise, as you like to say? And that just doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
With the Jets, who have the longest playoff drought in, I think it's professional sports. Not just the NFL.
12 years or 13?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I lost count. It's so damn long ago.
Yeah. Well, I would say, unlike most Jet fans, you tend to be, not that you're willing to bail, but you tend to be closer to a moderate, whereas you will acknowledge bad news. I think a lot of Jets fans are saying it's no big deal, but I do think if you have a GM and a coach on the hot seat, a new O-line, new receivers, in a really talented division with Josh Allen and the Dolphins players, I think it's something. Right? Like
it's definitely not nothing.
Again, if let's say Patrick Mahomes did it. Okay, I got Andy Reid. I got Travis Kelce. We're the 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl champion, 3-time champion. That's a different sensibility. People say, well, what about if Mahomes missed it? Mahomes got a trophy room. Mahomes has Andy Reid. You have Robert Saleh, who I'd argue is on the wrong side of the ball in 2024 in the NFL, and he is absolutely on the hot seat.
And did you mention Rodgers is coming off an Achilles? I mean, kind of a big injury at his age.
4 snaps. Again, there's quarterbacks who could have missed that. Josh Allen, I'd be like, okay. Lamar Jackson's got some young teammates, but they were the number 1 seed last year. I'd be okay.
Well, Josh Allen has a new wide receiver room, remember. I mean, he lost Diggs. It's like, I don't know that you can just skip it. Just be a leader. Show up. That's half the battle, isn't it?
I know. It doesn't seem like, the pro sports ask you to play about 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weeks off you can take.
It's going to be fine. When they're 6-1, first place.
Oh, okay.
We'll be doing that.
When they're 6-1.
Yeah, in October.
Yeah, that sounds like a Jet season. Invert that.